The first call came just before dawn, a panicked voice, clipped by static and fear, telling a Los Angeles 911 dispatcher, "There's a girl, she's not breathing," before the line cut to silence. By sunrise, blue lights ripped through the morning gloom outside a nondescript apartment on Westwood Boulevard, blocks away from UCLA's glittering campus. Inside, the body of a young woman lay crumpled at the foot of her bed. 23-year-old Priya, an Indian graduate student whose secret life would soon send shockwaves far beyond LA. Her friends would later remember Priya as brilliant, ambitious, and achingly lonely, a mechanical engineering prodigy, the only child of a single mother in Mumbai, who had come to the U.S. for a dream. She excelled in her research, but struggled to bridge the gap between her public perfection and the isolation of a stranger in a strange city. Rent in LA devoured most of her small scholarship. Her part-time job on campus barely covered food and books. Her WhatsApp chats with friends back home grew sporadic in early 2025. Instead, she lingered on niche forums about student survival in America, where the word sugar daddy flickered as both joke and promise. Police found few possessions, no drugs or alcohol. But as detectives combed her laptop, they uncovered a string of encrypted chat threads on a luxury dating website, where Priya called herself Neela, asking for discretion and understanding. Among dozens of bland, transactional proposals, one stood out. A gentleman in his 50s named Daniel P., promising $4,000 a month for companionship and absolute secrecy, no drama, ever. Their digital courtship, Venmo transfers, Uber receipts, fake names at hotels, had lasted 8 months. A few friends say Priya boasted about lavish gifts, a Tiffany bracelet, flights to Napa, rent money slipped in cash. But with each upgrade, her smile seemed to flicker a little less bright. The detectives dug deeper. That week, Priya's roommate, Meena, remembered hushed arguments over the phone. Someone, likely Daniel, had become possessive, sending dozens of texts after midnight. "Don't go out tonight. Tell me where you are. I'm coming over." Once, after Priya refused a dinner, Meena woke to the sound of fists pounding their door and a shadow slipping away into the South LA darkness. Priya shrugged off Meena's worries. "He's just dramatic. He gets scared, I'll leave." But she began looking over her shoulder. She kept her GPS off, stopped posting on Instagram, and finally installed a simple camera by her door. She used the extra money to send gifts home to her mother, who thought Priya was freelancing for a tech startup. All the while, Priya's grades were slipping. Her professors saw dark circles bloom under her eyes. Her attendance at the robotics lab became erratic. Yet every Sunday, she FaceTimed her mother in Mumbai, insisting everything was perfect, just busy. On the day before her death, campus security footage caught Priya stepping out of a black SUV, glancing nervously over her shoulder before disappearing into the library for hours. That evening, Daniel sent 17 text messages in less than 2 hours. The last, "If you don't answer, I swear you'll regret it." Just after midnight, neighbors heard a muffled argument and something heavy falling. Priya's camera captured only static before cutting out completely. By the time police arrived, Daniel was gone, and with him, any trace of the life Priya had so carefully hidden. In the aftermath, the Indian student community reeled, asking how a talented, loving daughter could vanish behind LA's curtain of privilege, risking everything for survival and a promise of kindness that ended in violence. The police found Daniel's real identity days later, a wealthy, twice-divorced real estate broker, now missing, his accounts suddenly emptied. The city braced for another round of loss and headlines. If you're fascinated by the dangerous secrets young women keep just to survive in America's richest cities, subscribe and hit the bell. Because this is only the beginning. The investigation will reveal how Priya's silent desperation led her into a fatal trap, and whose hands left her with nothing but broken promises on a cold floor in Los Angeles. But let's go back to where it all began, to Priya's first steps in America, and how her quest to chase the American dream turned, step by step, into a dance with danger that would claim her life. The first weeks of Priya Mehra's life in Los Angeles felt like a waking dream. Sunlight on glass towers, busy campus sidewalks, the promise of escape from everything she'd left behind in Mumbai. But the further she got from home, the tighter the walls closed in. At UCLA, everyone seemed to move in packs. Priya, Even with a flatmate like Mina and a whirl of group projects, often found herself wandering the quad alone, lost in isolation that grew louder with each passing night. Money, always just out of reach, dictated every decision. Her mother's WhatsApp voice notes, carefully cheerful, but tinged with worry, reminded Priya relentlessly, "Don't spend too much, Beta. Just focus, and you'll make us proud." Tuition, rent, utilities, even the cost of the next bus ride. All of it hung over her like a shadow. By October, Priya's savings were gone. She hid packages of ramen under her bed, walked past campus coffee shops with longing, and stopped joining classmates for dinners out. Even the smallest indulgence felt criminal. It was on a sleepless night, eyes burning from a glowing laptop screen, that she first stumbled onto the secret world of sugar arrangements, blogs, subreddit threads, endless cautionary tales sliced by a common theme. Survival, if you had the stomach for it. At first Priya scoffed, then grew curious, and finally, with her student loan portal flashing red, compelled. She registered on a discreet site under the name Neela07, telling herself she was just seeing what's out there. One message blazed like a signal flare. Daniel P., 54, polished, direct, showering her with compliments, invitations, a promise. No drama, just kindness, adventure, and the help you deserve, Neela. His profile photo was all-American success, salt and pepper hair, tailored suit, movie star smile. It felt more like a fantasy than a risk. Their first lunch was at a sun-drenched Santa Monica cafe, in broad daylight, surrounded by wealthy strangers. Daniel was charming, opening doors, asking about her research, reciting lines about his own 2 daughters, both at East Coast colleges. He slid a new iPhone her way before the check arrived. "Just so you don't feel alone here," he said, voice buttery, "and so I always know you're safe." Priya, trembling, weighed the phone's weight in rent money and student loans. She nodded, unsure whether to thank him or run. For months after that, Priya lived 2 lives. In the day, she was the diligent student, flagging in workshops, chasing research deadlines. At night, she'd slip into Ubers with Daniel, let him spirit her to penthouse cocktail hours, or check her into discreet Marriott suites with the entire city blurred to gold outside high balcony windows. Daniel was generous, funny, but unpredictable. He could be warm and paternal, or suddenly cold and insistent, texting Priya dozens of times in a single hour. She grew expert at lying, to Mina, to her professors, to her mother across the world. When money for rent or textbooks showed up in her Venmo without a subject line, she convinced herself it was a small price for a big dream. But as winter cooled the Palm-lined city, control crept in. Daniel's messages grew sharper. "Don't wear that blue dress again. Stop answering texts when we're together. No more friends on weekends." Priya tried to joke it off, to keep the line between herself and Neela clear, but the world started to close in. Daniel sent gifts to her locked mailbox at hours she'd never shared. Twice, he waited outside her evening lab shift, saying he missed her smile. He began to suggest that she quit her on-campus job, focus on us. Once, Daniel showed up unannounced at Priya's apartment building and fought with a Lyft driver who dared to compliment her laugh. Mina noticed the change first. She'd hear whispered, tearful phone calls through their paper-thin wall, catch flashes of fear in Priya's eyes. "He's just lonely, you know. He means well," Priya insisted as she paced, clutching her phone close. It's not like it is in the stories. But the excuses were thin. After a night of relentless calls and a missed midterm, her first, Priya confessed the truth to Mina in broken fragments. The money, the gifts, the contracts, the feeling that Daniel was both her patron and her captor. Mina, horrified, begged Priya to block his number. "This isn't love. It isn't help. You don't owe him your life." But Daniel wasn't so easy to leave. That week, he threatened to tell her family everything. When Priya changed her number, flowers and apology notes appeared at her doorstep within hours. She started checking street corners before walking home. Her Instagram messages filled with warnings from other women. "It doesn't stop when you say no. He gets angry if you meet anyone else." Terrified, Priya installed a security cam by her apartment door, leaving Mina instructions. "If he ever shows up, call campus police." January brought torrential LA rain, and with it, the final spiral. Priya's attendance collapsed. She slept through alarms, failed quizzes, missed an interview for her dream internship. She feared she was losing her future for the sake of rent money that now felt like a curse. Daniel flooded her phone with calls, switching between apologies, "I love you, Neela, you're my sunshine," and threats, "You're nothing without me. I made this life for you. You're not leaving me." Priya blocked him everywhere she could, but new numbers always appeared. On the third night of the rainstorm, Priya's camera app caught a frame of Daniel standing in the hallway, peering through the peephole. Then, silence. On her final day, Priya dragged herself to campus. She picked at a croissant, sat for hours in the silent library, and FaceTimed her mother for the last time. "It's just one bad week, Mama. I promise, I'll fix it all." As darkness fell, Daniel's text tripled, last seen in her digital logs as urgent. "I'm outside. Open the door, or you'll be sorry." After midnight, Mina heard the storm lashing the window, a raised voice, a scream muffled by the walls, and a sharp, final crash. The camera had frozen. By dawn, Priya was gone, broken by love that had turned to possession, hope that had morphed into a trap. And when detectives pieced together the digital shrapnel she left behind, in text logs, surveillance feeds, and desperate, unsent messages, they would discover just how far Daniel's obsession had gone, and how America's promises for the young and vulnerable can shatter with a single click. If you're not yet subscribed, you should be, because next, the investigation blows open, Daniel's real face emerges, and Priya's fate threatens to bring a city's secrets to the surface. But let's return, for now, to the moment a daughter, thousands of miles from home, try to break free and realize the price of freedom is sometimes written in blood. Night draped Los Angeles in the tense hush that follows tragedy. But in Westwood's small immigrant communities, Priya Mehra's name was everywhere. On WhatsApp groups, taped to campus bulletin boards, whispered at every Indian grocery and South Asian late-night cafe. As LAPD detectives worked through their third sleepless day, a gnawing new question clouded the case. Where was Daniel P., the gentleman who, for months, had shaped Priya's secret life in shadows and wire transfers? He'd vanished from his usual haunts, a sleek real estate office in Century City, his luxury high-rise, even from his own family. His Lexus left abandoned in valet, his phone powered off, bank accounts drained in the hours after Priya's death. For Mina and Priya's friends, fear turned to dread. Mina told detectives Daniel was the only guest Priya ever locked doors against. He had a way of making the air toxic in the room, she said, recalling the chilling feeling whenever his name surfaced. Every detail pointed to a man on the run, one who thought his money, influence, or perhaps just the city's distracted apathy, could keep truth at bay just a little longer. Investigators pieced together Priya's digital world. Her browser history and encrypted messaging apps painted a timeline of a relationship that had drifted from transactional hope to hunted panic. Venmo logs showed Daniel's hand in paying her rent for most of a year. Hotel check-ins used only cash and were always under pseudonyms. Texts begged, then demanded, her time. The gifts escalated: jewelry, a new laptop, then a plane ticket to New York to start over together. Each time Priya refused or stalled, Daniel's messages turned menacing. "You want to ruin my life? Careful, Neela. You don't know what I can do." Combined with images from her cheap security cam, Daniel's blurred silhouette at the door, 2:16 a.m., the investigation took a grim new turn. This was never just an affair. It was coercion, bordering on obsession. Priya's mother, devastated and thousands of miles away, flooded the consulate with calls. Neighbors, initially wary of police, now came forward. One recalled Daniel's presence the night of Priya's death, his wristwatch catching streetlight as he waited at the curb, the way Priya flinched when she spotted him near her building. Another, an elderly retiree across the hall, remembered something even more harrowing: a raised voice, a single screaming argument, and a thud, loud enough to rattle pictures on the wall. Campus reeled as well. Professors met with counselors, fearing other international students could be at risk. One faculty advisor told authorities Priya was desperate to break off the relationship in her final weeks, not just because Daniel scared her, but because, in his possessiveness, he threatened to contact her mother and professors, to claim she was a fraud, a cheater, not who she said she was. The pressure mounted until Priya's last project missed deadline after deadline, a first for the star engineer. The missing pieces began to fall into place. Bank security footage revealed Daniel cleaning out his accounts at 3:17 a.m., hours after Priya's death. His car was seen on cameras entering, then leaving a parking garage near Union Station, but never captured again. Investigators put out a statewide bolo. Every hour his trail grew colder. Every hour media spun the case, layering on new fears about safety, justice, and the subtle, corrosive power that money can exert over those grasping for a foothold in a foreign land. Yet the story did not retreat to silence. UCLA students organized candlelit vigils and circulated petitions demanding better protections for international students. Indian diaspora groups offered support to Priya's grieving family. The hashtag Justice for Priya hashtag roared across social media, and journalists dug into LAPD stats on similar sugar daddy cases. Most never prosecuted, nearly all brushed under the rug. As for Daniel P., with the world searching for him, visions of elaborate escapes, Mexico, Canada, or simply melting in LA's wealthiest enclaves, became likelier by the day. But Priya's voice, stitched together through unsent messages, phone logs, and fragments of confessions to friends, remained. "I try to get out," she'd written Meena only days before her death. "No amount of money is worth being afraid to breathe." With every uncovered secret, Priya's story grew larger than the trap that ended her life. She had come seeking a future, only to become an unwilling symbol of so many lost to America's silent machinery. Promising, overlooked, and, until her fate forced the city to look unprotected. If you're riveted by the dark edges of freedom, the stories hidden behind LA's glamour, subscribe and prepare yourself. Because coming up, detectives close in on Daniel's last steps, international outrage mounts, and the line between victim and survivor is forever blurred in the race for justice. But let's go back one last time, to the days before it all fell apart, to the warnings everyone missed, the little choices that sealed Priya's fate, and the links that, if caught in time, might have stopped a tragedy from ever unfolding. The press conference room at LAPD headquarters was packed, hot lights, camera shutters, and a low current of outrage radiating from every seat. It was the fourth day since Priya Mehra's body was found, and what had started as a private tragedy was exploding into a citywide reckoning. Priya's name was now a rallying cry for students, immigrants, and families stretching from Mumbai to Los Angeles. Outside, crowds held candles and posters, "Justice for Priya." Inside, detectives shuffled evidence folders, exhausted from chasing a phantom, Daniel P. who had managed to evaporate into the city's maze of privilege and anonymity. The investigation had turned obsessively thorough. Detectives mapped out every fragment of Priya's digital and physical world, reconstructing a timeline littered with red flags and missed chances. Every day brought new heartbreak. Meena, sleep-deprived, forced herself through hours of interviews, coaxed to recall each shift in Priya's moods, every question her friend had whispered in the dark. "Was it always this hard for you?" Priya had once asked. Meena now understood the gravity. For women like them, in places like this, danger always hovered just beyond comfort. Daniel's background was unspooling. Beneath his carefully curated image, affluent, charming, well-connected broker, detectives found holes. He had a trail of discreet settlements with other women, accusations of stalking, restraining orders quietly dissolved by cash and silence. His most recent ex had reportedly fled the city after months of unsettling visits. Detectives contacted his ex-wife, who admitted Daniel liked knowing where people were all the time. Midweek, forensic teams received the first break. Under Priya's fingernails, microfragments of skin and a shard of a gold cufflink. Daniel's trademark accessory. For the first time, LAPD could definitively connect him to Priya's apartment on the night of her death. The crime scene yielded even more. A security camera's corrupted memory card, painstakingly recovered, revealed Daniel pacing the hall, knocking, then forcing his way inside. The timeline was tight and chilling. Priya's last text, "Please stop," blinked unread at 11:54 p.m. By 12:19 a.m., her camera feed fizzled into static. Meanwhile, Los Angeles media propelled the case to national attention. Editorials lashed out at the city's failures. How many vulnerable students navigated this city invisibly? balancing on the edge between ambition and survival. Indian diaspora groups organized press briefings, sharing Priya's story as a warning and a plea. Support swelled for her mother, recently arrived from Mumbai, who sat, small but unbroken, at every public hearing, demanding her daughter's voice not be lost under American silence. While pressure grew, authorities extended the manhunt. Daniel's credit cards and phones were disabled, but they traced rideshare and gas station security footage. A tall, older man in a ball cap, last seen heading east past Palm Springs. Any hope of a quick capture faded. Now, it was a waiting game, and the world watched as justice chased a man who believed his privilege would shield him indefinitely. As investigators dug, more truths surfaced. Priya's professors, some angry, others hollowed out, acknowledged they'd noticed her spiral, but never pushed past polite concern. There's a wider failing here, her thesis advisor admitted in a televised interview. We lost her before she disappeared. We failed her when hope cost more than help. Meena became the reluctant face of the movement. She granted a single interview, voice shaking but resolute. Priya was smart. She wanted to beat the system, not be broken by it. But here, money talks louder than fear, even when that fear is deadly. Student groups lobbied for safer housing, expanded counseling, and workshops on digital self-defense. Across campus, her portrait, cap and gown, bright eyes masked by fatigue, was taped to every bulletin board. For Priya's mother, each day was a new fight. She walked the unfamiliar streets flanked by volunteers, speaking to news crews and, eventually, city council members. My daughter came to build a future, she told an assembly packed past capacity. Not to buy safety with gifts from a man who saw her only as entertainment. Not to die alone, scared, and unheard. As winter melted into early spring, the city reckoned with more than Priya's story. It grappled with the thousands like her. International students queued up at consulate offices, seeking advice. Parents in Mumbai, Shanghai, and Lagos called nightly, terrified at what America's promise might mean. Vigil after vigil lit the night, candles forging a chain between strangers who might otherwise have never met. Still, the case pressed on, and hope hardened. A reward fund, sponsored by advocacy groups and local donors, swelled as tip lines rang day and night. Every so often, rumors spiraled. A sighting of Daniel at a desert motel, a blurred face in a Vegas casino. But each lead fizzled, leaving Priya's friends and family to stare at an empty space where justice should be. Amid all the noise, Priya's voice, preserved in voice notes to Meena and her mother, cut through. You can be so brave over WhatsApp. In real life, it's harder to tell someone no, especially when they're the one paying. In those words, the story became bigger than murder. It was about the price of dreams, the invisible debts of displacement, and how easily love mutates into a weapon, especially when nobody wants to see. If you're captivated by the hidden battles that so many live and too many die in silence, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the next episode will take you inside Daniel's last days as a free man, the pursuit that spans coasts and continents, and the moment Los Angeles must answer. Finally, for every promise it ever made to the girls who came here seeking safety and found something else. But let's pause here, with a city on edge and a mother refusing to let her daughter's name be forgotten, to the moment before the world decides if justice is real or just another American dream waiting to be broken. The sky over Los Angeles that morning was a blank, indifferent blue, but beneath it, the city's nerves pulsed raw. National headlines looped on digital billboards. Daniel P. captured in Nevada, justice for Priya. The hashtag justice for Priya was everywhere, painted across the city in hastily printed posters and glowing on phone screens from Mumbai to New York. Outside the courthouse, dozens stood in vigil, students in borrowed UCLA sweatshirts, mothers linking hands, newscasters and camera crews, all waiting for word, for closure, for something to make sense of a quiet girl's plea and a powerful man's fall. Daniel's capture had been less dramatic than the months-long hunt would suggest, but more chilling for its abruptness. At dawn, Nevada State Police stormed a budget motel near Henderson, tipped by a desk clerk uneasy about the guest in 212, a man who never turned on lights, paid in cash, and spoke only when forced. He was alone, disheveled, haggard, clothes rumpled by nights, sleeping in the same outfit. His wallet was nearly empty, his suitcase packed with shirts still on hangers, and a crumpled letter in Priya's handwriting. "I just want out. Please let me go." Facing extradition, Daniel offered little resistance. His attorney tried to stall, arguing exhaustion, mental health, media hysteria, but the evidence kept piling up. A ruined gold cufflink with Priya's DNA, the recovered security camera footage, 73 unanswered messages from Daniel's phone, and a string of cash withdrawals lighting up his escape like a crime scene in neon. The trial, when it finally began, was both a reckoning and a spotlight for wounds too often left out of sight. Priya's mother, slight and composed behind her grief, sat in the front row clutching her daughter's scarf. Meena, drawn and silent, recounted in halting detail the months-long erosion of Priya's laughter, the fear that grew as Daniel's affection became a weapon. Witness after witness described patterns, gifts that became obligations, texts that turned to threats, surveillance masquerading as care. Daniel did not speak, not even when confronted with his own words. The prosecutors read the timeline aloud, money for rent morphing into demands for total access, romance into coercion. Priya's final days were shown through emails, texts, voice memos. "He says he'll fix everything if I move in, but when I say no, he tells me I'll never be safe. He'll tell mama everything. He'll ruin my degree. I just want to go home." The DA made no attempt at sentimental closure. Instead, over days of testimony, she pointed to the failures that allowed this tragedy to unfold. The stereotypes about strong Indian daughters, the university counselors who shrugged at Priya's exhaustion, the neighbors who heard fights but said nothing, the quiet ways money buys silence, then isolation, then even violence. Daniel's defense team tried every lever: claims of mutual consent, misunderstood love, even the tired myth that Priya courted risk knowingly. But the evidence crushed these arguments: transcripts of desperate, unanswered pleas, airline receipts for tickets Priya never used, a camera's blurry footage of Daniel pacing outside her door the night she died, audio of a final, muffled argument, and prayerful silence. In the gallery, students, many international, many women, watched with hollow eyes. To them, Priya had become less a person than a symbol of everything the American dream refused to promise: immunity from loneliness, safety and survival, a future unbought by secrecy or fear. The verdict came on a windswept spring morning, after less than 3 hours of deliberation. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, aggravated stalking, felony coercion. In the courtroom, Meena wept. Priya's mother only nodded, eyes steeled, her victory raw but incomplete. Outside, advocates issued carefully worded statements. "We are relieved by today's verdict," said one, "but justice can never resurrect a life. Now, we must hold power to account and bring every Priya back into the light." The judge's sentencing remarks cut through the chamber. This was predation masked as affection, an old lie wrapped in promises, ending with unimaginable loss. May this judgment remind all: no one's future and no one's life is for sale. Afterward, the city and its immigrant communities moved to grief and action. Across UCLA, new policies rolled out: mandatory orientation on digital safety, rapid response teams for at-risk students, around-the-clock crisis line for international families. South Asian networks in LA pooled funds for temporary housing, legal counsel, and, most poignantly, a scholarship in Priya Mehra's name for any girl who arrives in California with more courage than capital. At vigils, her photo became an icon, not of shame or risk, but unbending hope, a face that demanded America keep its promises. Mothers and daughters whispered her name on train platforms and in late-night phone calls home. "Did you hear about Priya? Did you see what happened when no one looked out for her?" More than a cautionary tale, she became a catalyst, a name invoked not only in mourning, but in every new policy, every letter to a chancellor, every protest insisting that another quiet girl never again be left alone. Daniel P. faded into the oblivion of a life sentence, his fortune unclaimed, his name now a caution, not a monument. Priya's final words echoed in the court transcript, in velvet-lit memorial halls, in the eyes of new arrivals walking beneath LA's indifferent blue sky. "Please, if something happens to me, don't let them say I was just unlucky. Tell them I wanted to live. Tell them I try to be brave." Today, on a bench outside the engineering building, A plaque catches the sun. For Priya and those who dream of more. May courage never again go unseen. And if you walk there at dusk, as candles flicker against the first shadows, you'll hear a memory carried in voices old and young. An anthem, a warning, a promise that, at last, the city has learned to remember. If you're drawn to stories that reveal the hidden costs of survival, the secrets beneath LA's golden surface, subscribe, because next, we'll peel back the curtain on another world overlooked, another fate shaped in shadows, and the fight for justice where it's almost always denied. But let's go back, just once more, to Priya's first day on campus, when every possibility was still alive, and nobody yet believed how quickly the American dream could slip through trembling hands.